Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Pits of Motor Chaos. This your host, Dave. I got on line with special guest, Dave Hill. How's it going, Dave?
It's pretty awesome, to be honest. I guess, except for rains and storms and the summer's coming to an end, but yeah, it's going to be tough drag racing in the snow, but we're going to try it.
Well, we had your son Ryan on with we had your son, the pro mod driver Ryan, on. Now we got you on. So
yeah, well, I appreciate that. It was really good to hear from you, and then to get asked just to chat about stuff like that. I mean, you say it's a dream, but it's really an honor to drive cars. I've driven some nice cars, and it's pretty unbelievable sometimes when you sit back and think about it. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate, truthfully. It took a long time to get here.
So this drag race thing is a whole family thing, family affair.
The what now?
I said, so I take it this drag racing bug is a family affair, or the Hill family.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, it is. Back when the kids were growing up, I was crewing for a buddy of mine that he built his last alcohol funny car, and I got lucky enough to crew with him for a few years. And we go through the pits, and there's this little bitty car over here, a little lawnmower motor on. I'm like, what is that? And it's a little junior dragster, of course. So that being the case, we slowly worked into two juniors. But at first, I bought a used junior for Ryan when he was 10, because I thought 10 was too young, But it really wasn't. I should have started him earlier. But I bought a used car. Mama was all freaked out because it's a little car, and so it took us a month and a half to get a win. I mean, we were both crying and it was emotional. I can't get my kid a win. It was just funny. But yeah, then the wife saw what the kids could do and how much fun. So then we did 7 years of junior racing with both kids. I was fortunate enough to have both kids, and we did pretty good. I mean, it was funny for us to grow up with our kids at the racetrack and go through everything from from puberty to adolescence to young manhood almost. And we met so many good families and people out there that we still have friends all over the Midwest here that we've junior raced with and become good friends now as adults. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the community and the involvement. I mean, one minute you're ready to take each other out, but then you're still buddies. I mean, it's just unlike anything else that you could, any other sport that I know of that has a connection like this.
Yeah, that's what I always.
Very fortunate as a family.
That's what I always say with all the people I interview. Drag racing is just one big family, and then you keep meeting more and more people, and the family grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I mean, everywhere you go, there might be somebody, especially Ryan. That kid knows people all over the world. But you go out and meet people, and honestly, you may or may not like them right now, but you're still part of the same, sport. I mean, and then some you envy, some you're jealous of, some you it's one of those sports where you're on top 1 second, you're on the bottom the next. And then here's the funny part from my aspect and being a driver. By far, I've high driven, the fastest, and I've driven some beautiful stuff. But people it's a whole new level of shit. I mean, like people that give you shit, and when you're on that level, it's tough. It can be tough because the way they come at you, it can be funny, but it can be rough, and you got to sort of get thick skin a little bit. Which it grows on you, and hopefully your confidence comes with it. But it's part of the family, and that's part of what you have to take as the family is a little bit of the. I don't put it in words, just a little bit of the shit that people give you, and you get to give a little back, and it's kind of fun, At least I think it is. Some people may not, but I've had great experiences, and I've had some very difficult experiences. So you live and learn, and I wouldn't have had those experiences had I not had people give me the opportunity, and what small accomplishments I've made. I mean, I've earned in some ways just from, I guess, trying to be a good driver. And that's a whole other term. Or you call it good driver, but what is a good driver? When people look at drivers, it's everybody has their own opinion of that.
Yeah, nothing beats that camaraderie of drag racers.
Really, yeah, it does. And on every level, there's competition on every level. I mean. People say, okay, yeah, you go fast. Well, I do, but the bracket racing level is incredibly intense. Some of these guys are incredible. They're good drivers, and hundreds and thousands of laps, and so they're actually more competitive in some ways. And so for each level of racing or classing, there's a level of competition for everybody out there. And I try to encourage everybody, and I do the same thing again.
Yeah, you got that racing in your blood, Dave.
You do. You can't give it up. Like, I mean, we'll have raced a weekend and blown up the engine, and I'll be mad for a couple of days, and then, of course, by Wednesday or Thursday, I go out there and start figuring out how to put it back together, because you just can't give it up. You can't walk away. You know, you're in misery for a little while and doubt. No, I'm going to wake up. It's a dream. We'll be just fine. And then, no, it's real. Now we got to go out there and figure out how to make it work, and then not blow it up again. You know, so yeah, you just can't. I don't know. Once it's in your blood, it's for some, it's just it never goes away. I mean, I can't see myself doing anything else. But I started crewing for Ricky Kraft in 2000, and I got to drive his funny car. And 05 and 07, I licensed in his alcohol funny car. Was incredible. And then in 08, I got the opportunity to join. I was a half team owner with Ben Amling, and I drove the injected nitro dragster for 4 years, which was a whole nother level, you know, top alcohol dragster. And then from there, I've driven a bunch of, you know, short wheelbase cars. I mean, recently was the Olds, which you had in the picture. I was just a test driver for Keith England then. It's Skinny Kid race cars. On the Billy Briggs racing engines, he does the engines for Keith, and Keith builds the chassis and tunes the car, and that's probably one of the most awesome badass cars I've ever driven in my life. So I mean, it's an honor to have sit in the seat of that thing and hit the pedal on that. So just all good things. I mean, you got to look at it this way. This man is going to trust me to drive his car. It's got well over $100,000 in it, and you know he trusts me. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, you know, it's not like I'm taking your daughter out on Saturday night. That's a whole different deal, you know. But it's still an honor. And that's why you have to look at. You need to stay modest in this sport. You need to stay, because when you walk into the track, there's enough egos already, and it's funny. That's part of the class you have, is everybody's ego. But most of the time, it's kind of a fun ego. Like, it's fun because you can, you know, butt heads a little bit with everybody and have fun. But when you get to see one of those things, you better pull it back, and you better, you know, put all that stuff in your pocket, and you better have your head on straight, because you can die in a heartbeat. You can die right now. You know, so you got to really have it in your mindset for it, and you got to appreciate the power that you're in, and you be a little bit. And of course, you got to be aware that things could get crazy, but at the same time, you got to have the confidence to believe that you can harness it just for a moment, and that's the silly way you justify it in your head. Like, yeah, I got this. That don't mean you got it, but it sure you have to tell yourself that, you know. And then from there, your instincts take over, and you either drive right or you don't, you know. So that's kind of how it works out in the short version.
Yeah, now you talking
about... Making sense at all?
Yeah. Now you talking about blowing an engine reminded me of something, you know, that out of sport or drag racing, that say your car breaks and you're out of the you know, eliminated, and another guy needs a part, you're willing to give your part off your car because you're not running no more to the other guy.
We've done that many a time, and we went over and asked. I mean, we went up and down the pits asking for help, and we carry stock in the trailer, and if somebody comes, we usually, if we can help them, we do, because it's really all about, I mean, I'll tell you what, we were running at Milan. Milan Dragway in Michigan has that Friday night run, and we hit the rocker, and we actually broke a valve spring, and I knew we had the parts to fix it, but I didn't think we could make the round. And honest to God, the whole class waited for us in the it's a Run What You Brung class. It's the badass class. They waited 45 minutes for us to put that car back together to run. So it's about the competition and the fun. Those guys were incredible. They waited I went around and thanked every one of them, because who does that? You know what I mean? I mean, they could. We lost. I went up there and said, "Hey guys, we can't make the round. You know, we're done." And I went back to my pit with my hood hung low, and we started working on a car, because, you know, what else are we going to do? Now that Keith and Billy both come over and said, "Come on, man, we got to get this show on the road, dude. We're waiting for you." So now we start thrashing, get the car together. And it was incredible. I mean, I get emotional thinking about it, because those guys waited for us. They didn't have to do that. So, yes, that's the camaraderie of it. Even though it's competition, it's still some camaraderie and being part of. It's hard to describe being part of it, because, you know, you're excited, you're there, you're with everybody, you're part of it already. So whether you win or lose, you're still part of the excitement. Winning, yeah, is even better, but you're still there and you're part of it, and you make memories. Every time you go to the track, you make memories. So it's, it's pretty. That part I think is pretty incredible. And I mean, the cost is in a whole other world. But if you looked at it from the cost aspect, you'd go broke. But you don't do it for the cost. You do it for the thrill, excitement, and camaraderie, and all those other reasons that you're there, and friends and stuff like that. I mean, so I like to encourage everybody to come out and check it out. And that's another thing. When spectators come to the pits, we invite them in. We sit in the car, take pictures, we talk. They come in and can talk to us as on one-on-one, and people don't realize that because this ain't NASCAR. I mean, it ain't top secret shit. It is top secret, but the tune-up's one thing, the engine parts are another. But you come in and talk to the crew and the people, and you're shooting the shit and having beers with them, and you can't do that at a lot of sports. You can't do that level of coming in and meeting people, and so I think that's another thing that keeps people coming and keep the fans involved, because it's difficult nowadays there's so much stuff out there to see and do that it's difficult to get new spectators come. So drag racing is sort of I'm not going to say it's a dying sport, but it's struggling a little bit with all the other crap there is in the world. So to take people to the track and introduce them to other teams and just horsepower and the thrill and all that, I think it does. It makes me feel good. Hopefully you can keep the sport alive, and you see a smile on somebody's face, or the I'm scared shitless look that you get sometimes when 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower leaves beside you. So it's that part of it's another aspect.
Yeah, and some of my recent interviews, I've been talking with drivers about. I've been watching podcast, not podcasts, live feeds, like Facebook live feeds from different drag race tracks, and seeing a lot of empty seats out there these days. I don't know something's got to be done to change that, though.
I think I've been fortunate enough once again to crew for a lot of different cars and level of cars, and so a lot of nostalgia racing is coming back. And I think here's the thing. The older generation that raced in the 60s and 70s are slowly, moving on. But the nostalgia cars that did it are still here, or replicas of them, and they're coming out. Well, now the younger generation says, "Wow, what's that? What is this? What's that?" Because maybe they didn't see it; they weren't even alive then. So the nostalgia generation of cars is coming back strong. There's races every weekend around the country where you can go see cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and on up. And then the nostalgia fuel cars, the nitro cars, are the same deal. I mean, you got these cars that look like they're from the 70s, but the safety equipment is modernized, and these cars are hauling ass. And it's more of a thrill because it looks like it's something from the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and it's still hauling ass, making noise, and it's fast. So that's another aspect, and that's actually what I'm building now is a fuel altered, because I want to take a spin in a nitro car again here next couple of years, and I want to run with some of these guys if I can get this thing running right, and I can drive it right, get out there and mix it up with the guys and have some fun. So that's what I'm trying to create. Is it's a little different than some of the NHRA stuff, because that's class cars, and then there's specific rules and things going on there. But there's a lot of, I won't call it outlaw racing, but there's racing out there, and some of this heads up big money race. I mean, the Milan races are $3,000-$4,000 payout for 2 rounds of qualifying and 3 rounds of racing. I mean, that's real good. You don't get that at like some of the other tracks that are sanctioned. You won't get that kind of payout. So, and there's some of these races on the East Coast over $10,000 for 4 rounds if you're good, if your car's the right car. So, nostalgia racing is coming big, and a lot of the heads up. So, you know what I mean when I say heads up racing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't know if the crowd, if people were listening, but the heads up stuff is because I suck as a bracket racer, man. I gave that shit up a long time ago, and I just lucky enough to drive stuff that was was a 4.0 tree, pro tree, and then you react a little better, I guess, that way. And then a lot of stuff's going 8th mile because it's easier on parts, and it's kind of a driver's game, 8th mile racing.
Yeah, that's what
you get a quarter mile.
Like Chris Graves with the funny car cast is all 8th mile.
Yeah, I wish I could be in Denton right now. That's where they're at right now.
Yep.
The finishing the season, I was lucky enough to go 3 races this year. Two of them went to chaos, and one was at 131. And I think that's a good deal, and I hope he can keep that going. I hope that works. I know I enjoyed it, but I wasn't driving. I was just crewing.
Oh yeah,
But, I think so.
that brings back the thrill of the old days too, with like 25, 30 funny cars.
Well, yeah, and the way he's got it classed, it's bring a funny car. Bring it. There's alcohol funny cars. There's nitro nostalgia. There's modernized nitro. I mean, they don't care to bring it. In other words, the fastest guy, if he can get down the track, because there's cars that already overpower the track. Now it's about racing the track, not about making more horsepower to go faster. So some of the cars already over horsepower the track. So now it's really back to tuner's game for the cars really fast. But I like the show. I like what he did with the show. And, I hope that next year we'll be a part of it, probably from a crewing aspect. I don't think I'll have my car together well enough to be out there yelling, hey, look at me, But I just, happy to be a part of that whole deal, too. So I push for that kind of stuff and nostalgia, so I love it. I mean, most of my links on my phone are for nostalgia stuff. I mean, it's amazing. I just started liking it and linking it, and a lot of my friends do it, and we talk about it. And, I wasn't around then. When I grew up, wasn't like that. So when I came to Chicago and got involved, and then now starting to meet older people and get into it more. So I love it, man. I hope to get more people into it,
So let me ask you this, Dave. After all these years, what still keeps you passionate about drag racing?
I think, the family aspect, and Ryan and I we've made so many memories together, and I can look in his eyes, and he looks in mine, and we have that moment of, I don't know, it's him and I, and it's like, it's not, we've got everybody around us that supports us, but it's that one moment where you and your son are together, and you have fun, and so that keeps me passionate, but also for me now, and I don't want this to sound like it's an egotistical thing, or I'm all that, but I challenge myself. To first to drive. See, to get the car down the track, you get the throttle, you get the car on the track. It's harder to stop the cars than they are to get them going. But how good of a driver are you? And the people, what do you mean? Well, if the car gets out of the groove, or you drive it out of the groove, or it pushes you, you drop a cylinder, and the car wants to come around. Or that's the test of a good driver. That they know how to handle a car and react quickly to a situation where it's going to get. They're my team. I mean, they're supporting me. So that's a huge part for me. So there's a lot of passion that goes into all this. But once again, I try to stay modest. I'm very thankful for even though I've worked and I've put a lot of money into it, money don't mean nothing. This is about being thankful and for the people that have given you opportunity like this. And that's really what it's all about for me. Now, you might not hear that from a lot of people, but not about me, but just in general, drivers get that, all that kind of a mentality going, and boy, I'll tell you what, that's not the way it should be, because people look up to you. When you drive something like this, when you drive through the gates at the racetrack, and I'm no, but I'll tell you what, sometimes I get treated with respect. I get people call up to me like I'm somebody, but when I walk out of the gate, you know what? I'm just like you or the next guy down the road. I'm another guy. I'm not that guy that was in the track. And so you got to be careful with your attitude and ego and stuff like that. And that's what keeps me passionate. Is I have the drive to want to win and do better as a driver, but I'm not all up in my. I think I'm all that about it. So there's a lot of little challenges that go into it, and I like to think that I'm okay. I mean, I don't get to drive all the time, so it's sometimes difficult because it takes a few runs to get yourself reacclimated. Did you hear that, Thunder? Go ahead. I'm just rambling on.
So what year did you start drag racing?
Oh, boy. I started drag racing before I was out of high school, but my dad owned a junkyard in Tennessee, and when I say junkyard, that's what he did, was junk cars, drive trucks. And I'd come home in the summer, we'd be out there throwing junk motors in cars and taking them to town and drag racing, hillbilly style. It was the best thing. And we did that for a few years after high school, and then I moved to Chicago, and my family and I started a business, and for 11, 12 years, I didn't do nothing but work. And then mid-30s, I bought a street car and gutted it and built some engines and we were racing a little bit of street racing. That lasted a little while until I got busted and cost me some money. And then I get tired of going to Chicago and trying to fight for a run. So I sold that, and that would have been 98, 99, something like that. And then by 98, 99, I had a alcohol injected small block 63 Nova. That was my bracket car, and I ran it 2 summers, and this wasn't worth the crap of bracket racing. I just didn't know a lot, and I got with Rick Kraft on the alcohol funny car stuff, and that's like boot camp for drag racing is what that is. I mean, it's just around the clock working on stuff. So I actually started, of course, in 82 and 83 when I first started racing, but there's many years in that I didn't race, and then I got back into it in the mid-90s, let's say. And it's more on like I said, I raced on the street for a while, and then sold that and got a track car, had that for a few years, and then I had it for a few years and never even drove it. I was too busy crewing, and then in 05, I licensed an alcohol funny car, and did that for a little while, and worked my way up to alcohol dragster. So it progressed pretty good in the early 2000s, but, before that, I'm just working my butt off. And we junior raced, so from 2000 to 2008, we junior raced. So I did that as a filler. I mean, that was full time because I'd be working on engines during the week, and then we'd go 3 days on a weekend racing the juniors, here in the Midwest. So very difficult, but very rewarding to me. At least it was to me.
So what year did you?
Yeah, it's 82.
What year did you start driving Pro Mod?
Well, we built. Well, I made Ryan do his 3 years of college because I wasn't just going to buy the kid a car. He needed to go to college, and he agreed. He wanted to go, so he went. So he did 8, 9, and 10. No, he graduated in 8. So 9, 10, 11. He went to Vincennes for machining, and we had already. Well, it kind of got tough. The partner that I had on the A fuel car was difficult, and I was just done with it. And I had money saved to buy parts for that car, the Nitro car. And I approached him with, okay, here's the deal. I got $25,000. He said, wow, we can go racing. I said, well, yeah, here's the deal. Ryan drives. He didn't like that. So that was the end of my career in the A fuel deal. Now I've driven. To keep my license and stuff, you have to drive often enough to keep your license renewed. So I've driven other people's car to keep my licenses. But in 2012, actually, what we bought in 11, but in 2012 we started building the what we call Big Booty Judy, which is the O2 Firebird with the blown Hemi in it. So we took it out in 13, and I took it for a spin, and Ryan's mostly been driving it since. So, I mean, ultimately, that would be our first version of a Pro Mod because it's almost quick enough to be, Pro Mod, but it's nothing like, Skinny's car because that thing is a whole other animal. But really a short wheelbase car with high horsepower. Though it's a door car with high horsepower would be considered Pro Mod. It's just Pro Mod it's quarter mile stuff. So these cars, 8th mile, are as fast as Pro Mods. And faster, some of them, the turbos and stuff. So short wheelbase cars where it's very difficult to handle under high horsepower because the thing gets crazy with you, and you just got to keep it in between the walls, So I don't know, 2012 probably would be what we would consider. Like the alcohol funny car is it's a beast in itself too, but it doesn't have doors. It's got a body that lifts up. The power is similar, but like with the modernized Pro Mods, they have some of them have 5 and 6 speeds. They have lock-up converters, and that you don't have that stuff with the alcohol funny car stuff. But it's still a short wheelbase car, like an alcohol funny car, and a Pro Mod generally up to 125 inch wheelbase, and that's considered a short wheelbase car, drag car. So yeah, I mean in 2012 probably it would be the best explanation for driving Pro Mods for both Ryan and I both.
So that white car that you were driving, that was a Pro Mod?
Oh, absolutely. Keith's been building cars, 30 years. And then Billy Briggs and Jennifer been building engines, 15 years as well. And they're right next to one another, and they work well together. And so this is Keith's second version of that car, and it's an incredibly built piece, well designed. That guy is like a rocket scientist, man, on cars. I mean, You look at in detail of the car. He's built so many, he knows exactly what it needs to be to work. And yeah, there's no question about it. There's chassis and building chassis goes, he knows, and that's what he's been doing his whole life. So that is that's a full-fledged pro mod. Like, we turned Judy into a pro mod. I mean, she was heavy, and I put as much horsepower as I could, and it started bending the chassis and the frame. We had to put bars in it to beef it up. So you take a car that's designed for, it's a 6.0 cert, and you try to put so much horsepower in it now that it's flexing it, and it's going to hurt it. Like, there was things that we took up Keith's one, and he started finding bars that were about to break. Stuff that was going to hurt somebody soon, and he fixed all that for us. Because it was going to be a problem if we let it go. We wouldn't even have noticed it. Keith noticed it and told us about it. So, those things that we don't know because we're not chassis guys. But, yeah, that's the pro mod deal, is high horsepower, short wheelbase, and a lot of gears, I mean, it's whether it's turbo, whether it's a ProCharger or nitrous, supercharged, it's horsepower, and you got to harness that horsepower, and that's the deal with pro mods. And there's a lot of small tire cars out now, no prep stuff. A lot of no prep racing is coming around. I've not been to one myself. It doesn't really appeal to me, but that's part of what's coming around too for drag racing. So there's other things that are coming around. I think that's going to keep drag racing going. At least I want to believe it.
Yeah, when I was talking to Ryan, he was hoping to find some time to come down to down this way and run with the Chicago Wise Guys for an event, but that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Yeah. I booked those guys into. I blame my 2 events. Well, 2 seasons if you know about it. And Ryan's been friends with Chris Duncan and Amanda Hoover for years, and it only made sense for us to take it down to him. And when we did, of course, he got to looking at it, and he scared the shit out of me. He's like, "You guys ain't gonna drive this car." And we went down and looked at it, and he's gonna straighten it out, man. So we're excited about that, because it makes you feel good that you're gonna get a piece back that's gonna run. You're gonna hit the throttle, and the thing's gonna go straight, and it's gonna go fast. And that's a good feeling. When you get a car and you doubt you don't know what the car is gonna do, you kind of tend to hesitate a little bit, like, what do I want to do here, But you get a car that's ready. Your chest is out. You're like, okay, I got this. So it's just a driver thing, maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good, man. It's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully Ryan gets his out next year. We'll see.
Yeah, this year for the Chicago Wise Guys, their 25th year now.
Is it really? Oh wait, now this year or coming next year?
This year, right now, is the 25th anniversary. Yeah. Yeah, Pete.
Wow, man, that's a long time.
Pete Demos has been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Has he really, man? Yeah, he's the guy. The guy set me up. Yeah, I took care of it all. I mean, I haven't seen him in a few years, but he was the guy I spoke to himself. And promoted that stuff. So that was, yeah. I really didn't know for a few years that they were even still out. And then I had to some guys, and then he realized they're still running out there. We just did. We weren't involved at tracks where they were running or they're paid in or whatever, So we didn't necessarily know what happened. I know some of the guys moved on to other forms of racing or.
Oh yeah, like Mike Riccia.
Yeah. Yeah, I was getting ready to say Riccia. He's a fun dude, man, and they got that car running badass, don't they? I wish I could do something like that. I mean, that's another nice deal. I mean, those are It takes years and countless hours and money to get to the level that reaches at. I mean, there's no question about it. People see it and you go, wow, that's fast. And yeah, I mean, you can't imagine the money and time and effort that goes into doing that for your 3 or 4 or 5 seconds of thrill. It's people look at you what? Yeah, how many hours? And you what? And they can't believe it. You got that much time and effort, money in it. But you do because you love it and you're passionate about it.
Yeah, the wife and I went up the Great Lakes Dragway on June 29th, I believe was. The Wise Guys were running up there. Mike Riccia made a special appearance around with the Wise Guys for that event.
Did he?
Yep.
Did he put on a good show?
Yeah.
Because that's why I actually licensed in the funny car. Ray Drew was a track owner then. Well, it was 3 of them, but he let me license the stuff up there. I used to love to go to the shows up there, man. When Broadway Bob put on his crazy shows. I mean, that was like late '80s, I think, early '90s maybe. But
Yeah,
Yeah, so the Wise Guys were part of a show up there? Is that what it was?
yeah. They got one more event this year at Great Lakes Drag, which is October 12th is their last run of the year.
Now, is that like a paid event for other car, like the other show, and like there's other bracket racing and stuff going on, or is it?
Yeah, they got bracket racing there going on, and you got Pro E85 group running there. They run
Okay,
it
yeah,
they run
yeah.
at 41.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool, dude. It's cool. I actually hadn't been to. I went to Great Lakes last year. I hadn't been this year.
Then you got
I hadn't been
the
this year. I used to love to go there.
you got the Midwest Nostalgia Pro Stocks running.
Yeah. I remember the Outlaw Pro Stocks. I got those guys. I booked those guys in at the same time I booked Pete the guys in at 41. And those guys put on a good show too, man. They run their own class deal. Each driver pays in, and they have their own points deal. It was really a cool deal back in the day, and that's the same way the Wise Guys do, right?
Yeah,
They all pay in the pot.
Yeah, this last Wise Guys event on the 12th will be the decision who's going to be the champion with the points.
And who is it? Who's like in the running?
I think right now I think Christian Uck's number one right now, then Alex Kusha is like in second.
Okay, right on, man. Is Pete still running?
Pete still drives. Yep.
Oh shit, man. See, I could walk up to him. I bet he would be like, "Who the f are you?" Because I remember him, but he sees a lot of people, and I wouldn't expect him to remember me at all. But it'd be kind of funny to see him. I'm sure that when I introduce myself and hey, remember when? He'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember you." But it'd be cool to watch those guys go again because they always put on a good show, man.
Yeah, that's why Ryan was saying he'd love to come down and run with them guys for at least one event sometime.
Yeah, I think for Ryan, he loves drag racing so much that he'd be at 10 tracks in one weekend if he could, because he wants to be a part of those classes and run with those guys. Because when he was growing up, those were the guys. Like I want to go see the Wise Guys because he was a little guy and he wanted to go watch them. So he wants to be a part of that now. He's an adult. He wants to run with those guys as part of his, I would say, childhood dream. But he was with me every weekend, whether I was street racing, whether I was at the racetrack. I mean, that kid was with me all night long, all weekend long, and he just maybe I ruined him. I don't know, but he loves it so much that he wants to be a part of all aspects of the racing, including like the Wise Guys. He wants to run with those guys so he can say, "Man, I ran with you guys once." It's just like part of a bucket list, if you will.
Yeah, that's another awesome thing with the Wise Guys is to bring what you got. The Pro Mod, whatever style Pro Mod, naturally aspirated, blower, nitrous oxide, whatever, supercharger.
I think that makes for a better show because you got such a variety. Not all the same looking stuff coming up there. It's a nice variety, and the crowd needs to see that. Crowd needs to see some variety, and because a lot of them don't even understand what's going on. They see the little green lights come on. These two cars go down the track, and they 1-1. They have no. Most people have no idea what's going on with that. The computer is really determining who wins the race. One car might be ahead, but in bracket racing, that's not how it wins. So it's that part probably throws a lot of spectators off if they don't know what's going on with the starting tree and the way the computer works. But it doesn't matter. You get nice cars going on the track. And some people go to the track just for that, to see the cars, different kind of cars, because everybody's unique. You might take a car that I had one way, and he comes back next weekend, and you read the whole car and body, and that's the neat thing about it. You make it yours. You make it the way you want.
Yeah.
That's like everything else. It's unique. I should say, it's just unique.
Yeah, like with the big show funny cars, a lot of them look the same these days. The way they're made.
Yeah. Well, when somebody starts going fast, everybody looks at it and says, "Wow, it must be going fast because it's got that on it. I got to have one of those." Next thing you know, the guys making them can't make them fast enough because everybody in the mother wants one. And maybe that's what it is, or maybe not. Maybe it's something else. But nevertheless, if they think this is what it is, people go crazy for it. So you have a lot of that going on, and I've been down that road too, thinking that I needed one of those because it was that. Yeah, because you don't know. Guys that are really making horsepower are the guys that really they know, and everybody else is trying to figure it out, and that's part of it, And if you know, and you're that guy, I mean, you kind of have a little bit of control with what you want to do, how you want to handle it, and all that stuff. So yeah, you can direct. It's amazing how one guy can say, "Hey, it's going fast because of that thingamajig." Next thing you know, next day, this guy has to make 10,000 thingamajigs because this guy said that's why he's going fast. So it's stuff like that just goes crazy in the drag racing world. Money is just no object. These guys just spend big money. So it's wild. I wish I had that kind of money, man. I'd be somebody else.
Yeah, if you had the big sponsors like they do, then you'd be able to spend all that.
Yeah, you'd just be able to test more and be able to drive more and be, and that's part of it. I mean, I'd love to drive more, but part of me, I feel like I'm a pretty damn guy, and I try not to, I try to be respectful and represent the teams and stuff very well, and I'm really not a very good ass kisser. Sometimes you got to be that way, and that's been a difficulty, because I've been in business for 30 years, and I'm just a different kind of guy with that, and I just typically won't drive if it's going to be something like that, but I've had the opportunity to drive some unbelievable cars, and I've turned down a lot of opportunities because I could see that it was not going to work, and it would just be a disaster, and I didn't want to be a part of being part of the disaster or being the disaster or something, so I would just say no. I appreciate the opportunity, but I think I'm going to pass. And it took a while to get that because as a driver, you want to drive everything. When I'm about me in there, and I look at it going, it's not a good idea. It could be everything from the car owner to the way the car's built to the guys that are working on it. They're chewing their bubble gum and putting the bubble gum down where the bolts need to go, and just feel like that you're getting ready to die if you get this thing. So you really have to. You're looking at the whole aspect of what's in front of you and who's handling it and the owners, and you look at the whole package here. What happens if, God forbid, you crash a car? Well, we need to figure out what we're doing here. Is this, where's my involvement? What's going on? And I always ask the owners of the car, how do you want me to drive the car? That's my first question. And literally, I know the answer most of the time. If we're first qualifier, you don't pedal it. If it gets loose, you shut her down, idle down. But if it's the last qualifier and you're not in, now you do whatever the hell you got to do to get it if you can. So there's a whole different level of driving from one to the other, and it sometimes it can cost money if you bounce off walls and hurt things. I always asked, as out of respect for I'm driving somebody's car, I ask, you want me to drive the car? I'm not going to try to drive over my head. If it tells me to go 200 feet left, I can go 200 feet left because he's testing me. If I know where 200 feet's at. So things like that happen as a driver because I want to see how good you are. Do you know what's going on in the car? Are you competent? So those kind of things are part of the driving experience as well as licensing. I was helping out. I looked at man, you should not be in this car. I could see the look on your face if you were that. And I've had guys literally get to the other end of the track after one hit in a nitro car. Thanks, guys. They're shaking hands and giving me a helmet. Have a nice day. Take care.
All right, we lost him, ladies and gentlemen. Let me call him back. We just lost him. Hold on.
Still there?
Yeah, I lost you.
I'm sorry, man. And I've been standing right here pretty long. Maybe it's the rain or something. I've been trying to stand roughly in the same spot just for the signal aspect. But where did you lose me at?
Right when you were talking about the other guys.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I'll just go back to you really have to have. When I drive, there's owners of cars that say drive it however you want. Okay, well, then that's the green light for me to drive it how I want. But then if I get crazy and loose, I'm in and out of the throttle, which sometimes is the wrong thing to do. But it's fun. I'm driving it because you give me the green light. But it's one of those things where if you don't have to crash the car, it means you can go another round. So, just because you're in qualifying and it's the first run and you're trying to set the world on fire and the car gets loose and you pedal it 10 times before you get to the 8th mile, that's a bad driver. Were you crazy? I mean, there's no reason to do that. So typically, those are things that, and I know it's out there, like it's unspoken, but people talk, like things get around. Like if you as a driver maybe don't handle something correctly, people talk, like owners of cars, I think today, I know they do because I've had questions asked of me that were asked of me by somebody else. So people are, the owners and the big money guys, they're looking at you, whether you realize it or not. So, you kind of want to be on your best behavior, and that's part back to being respectful and modest and a good person, overall good person. And I think that carries you and takes you further than, just being difficult, because there's a lot of difficult people out there, just to put it nicely, right?
Yep.
So what do you think? You've ever driven a pro mod, or you ever been?
No, I've never. Nope.
What
I do think though is you have to have a good crew behind you.
You do, but here's what you really got to have: is you got to have some confidence. Because I'll tell you right now, a car that does 200 miles an hour in the 8th, and if they ain't keep their foot on the throttle, it ain't because they're a good driver, because they're stupid. And I don't mean it in a bad way. People are gonna get mad at me if I say that, but these cars are so fast they will scare the shit out of you. And if it doesn't, there's something wrong with you. But so you have to work your way up to speed. You don't just get in one of these things and go, yeah, and go 200 miles an hour. No. First time I drove an 8 fuel car, I went 200 to half track. I lifted. I went, what the hell am I doing? Holy cow! And I was only 200 miles an hour. So you have to work your way up, and along with that, either your confidence comes with you or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I tried it. It's not for me. And it's okay, really, because you don't see nobody die because they gotta stick their chest out at their buddies. That's tough to be that kind of person, because everybody wants to say they're tough guys or they can drive or do whatever, but you got to have the confidence to drive. And whether you've driven it or not, you get in it and you take laps to where you work your way. You get past the initial feeling of everything, you start and then replaying everything in your mind, and you start, okay, I did this here, can't do that, I got to do this. And that's what you start doing. And that's your confidence. That's your ability to replay it in your mind and know how you drove. And your confidence takes you to the next level, and then you're ready for more speed and more short wheelbase car versus long, and you just go from there, you know what I mean? And you learn from your experiences. Every time I get in the car, I don't care whose it is, I learn something.